We have a great show tonight. We talk about people who complain about America, who want to fundamentally change America while erasing our history and forgetting about the great American heroes who have gone before us. Stay tuned, you'll really like this. Good evening, this is Firebase. I'm your host, Gary French. Glad you decided to tune in to be with us this evening. Let me ask you a few questions as we start tonight's episode. Are you tired of folks who constantly complain, listen to this, about how racist America is? Are you fed up with people who want to fundamentally change the United States of America? And what about this? What about all of the Marxist-loving people, nincompoops, who say that if we just had a healthcare system like, drumroll please, Cuba, we would have much healthier citizens? I'm always leery when people start using the word citizens as if they are bantering something that is provocative, that is so much better. Well, my friends, if America is so bad, and if our healthcare system is so terrible, why do we have so many people wanting to come to America? Why do we have so many people wanting to come here illegally into the United States of America? Those are great questions. And when I talk about people coming into the United States and people who are fed up with our system or who are clamoring that we're racist, I'm not just talking about a certain political group of people. I'm not talking about the drug cartels, although they do want to flood our nation. I'm not even talking about the people who are promoting the kidnapping of little children and putting them into the sex industry. I'm just talking about people, primarily politicians, who say that the only way to have a free country is to have open borders. I remember when I was growing up, we learned something important about our nation. It was called United States history. And we even had a class called civics. We were actually taught and well remember, even to this day, the key points of our American history. I remember, as I'm sure many in our audience, I hope that you will remember, and those that are too young to remember this from your own personal history class, you need to ask yourself, why are the schools not teaching this today? I remember being taught about the Founding Fathers and their distinct Judeo-Christian values and worldview. We remember being taught about such great Americans as our first president, George Washington, the very first president, the father of our nation, as he's been called. And from our history books, here's what we knew about him. He was not racist. He was not a bigot. He was not a hater by today's group of people that would define him as a hater. The writers of the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution were not motivated by greed or the owning of slaves or the desire to create a system where the politicians were better than everyone else. That's some things you need to learn in your history schools today. We remember from history that, listen carefully to this, that the Republican Party was the party which sought intentionally to eliminate slavery, not the Democrats. And it was the Republican Party that helped to ensure that Americans received equal rights, not equity. The great civil rights leader from the 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was a Republican. We were taught that America had good people and we also had bad people. But our lessons focused on the goodness of our country. We learned of such great men and women such as Betsy Ross, Daniel Boone, Lewis and Clark, Davy Crockett, George Washington Carver, Sergeant Alvin York, and Audie Murphy, among so many others that there's not enough time in a 30-minute program to list. Betsy Ross is credited with creating the first United States flag. I bet you she would stand in attention today when the flag is displayed. Lewis and Clark helped find a path to go across our great land to discover the Pacific Ocean. Daniel Boone was a frontiersman and a pioneer. Carver was a profound researcher individual, a researcher and a scientist who discovered, of all things, multiple uses for peanuts. And we shouldn't even bring him up since I'm a white man and he was a black man. I suppose it's because of my whiteness. I shouldn't even talk about that. Alvin York, a man destined to live in poverty from Tennessee, who single-handedly captured hundreds of Germans in World War I and saved countless American lives. What about the little short guy who is too small, too short to even be considered for active duty during World War II? Audie Murphy. He's perhaps our most decorated soldier from that war, from that era. He received a battlefield commission and then helped repel the enemy, and he saved comrades, his comrades in battle. Friends, we need to remember people like these. And I'm especially reminded of Davy Crockett. Here was a genuine American hero, a man who was a frontiersman, who was a hunter, who was a politician. Didn't really like being a politician from what I understand in the history books. But he heard the call, the clarion call to go to a little small fort in South Texas, there at San Antonio. And he, with a group of volunteers from Tennessee, went to fight an unwinnable battle against Santa Anna. He led the way, and he was helpful in propelling for us to remember the greatness of our nation. As a child, when I would hear, "Remember the Alamo," it would boil up within me the need to remember our patriotism. And it was spoken in the same breath as December 7th, a date which will live in infamy. Those were clear days for Americans. My friends, those were times in our history and in our culture that we proudly proclaimed that being American, that is what united us. Because we believed in the common good. And I'm not talking about any kind of theological issues about good and evil, because the Bible says all of us are not good. All of us need a Savior in Jesus. I'm talking about the common good of what it meant to be a patriot, to be someone who loved the Bill of Rights, who loved the Constitution, who stood proudly when the flag was flown, who saluted appropriately. These were the times when we understood what it meant, that our freedoms was not granted to us by any political party, nor by any government, but our freedoms were granted to us by God Himself. Because, my friends, if America today is so evil and racist, then none of the people that I've mentioned would have dared to have taken the time to stand and die for this great land. It tells me that one person can make a difference. But we also need to bear in mind that one person can make a difference for good or for bad. Today, tragically, in our land, we hear so much stuff about how America is intrinsically racist. We hear about critical race theory being crammed down the throats of our children and our own citizens in this great land. CRT is teaching that our children, that all whites are racist because they are white. We are told that the U.S. history is filled with evil and that only, quotes, people of color, end quote, should advance in society. Friends, that is racist. We're faced with difficult choices that we really shouldn't make so difficult in choosing. Either we are for America or we are not for America. And the version that we're for should not be predicated upon our own personal whim or whimsy. It should not be hinged to how I view the U.S. Constitution, but to what the Constitution and the Founding Fathers had to say about our nation. Suffice it to say that either we are Americans who are united or we are not. And my friends, from what I'm seeing from the leftist, socialist, Marxist people in our land and much in the news media today, is that they are doing their utmost to divide us. They want us to become but a memory in the history of our land. And that only comes about if you and I choose to retreat. If you and I succumb to the fear that is forced down our throats every day and we just let the Marxists take over. But my friends, in order to become great again, we must be united around the core values that have made us the greatest nation on the face of this planet. We must rally around the flag. We must support the Bill of Rights. We must live according to Judeo-Christian values as revealed not just in the Bible, but in our Constitution. And my friends, you and I must understand, we must vote. And we must vote for those men and women who espouse American values, who admire those who have taken the time to stand before us, those who have fought the good fight, and they have withstood the assault from all the enemies. We must know that our land is not to be ruled or coerced into anything by executive orders. Our land is a free land, and we are to be led by our Constitution, by human dignity, by you and I standing together to salute the flag, to stand for justice, for truth, for liberty. That's what I'm thinking tonight. We will be right back after this short break. I hope that you won't go anywhere. Stay with us for the rest of the program tonight. Welcome back. I am so glad that you decided to stick around. You know, just before the break, we were talking about a lot of the assaults that are going on against our nation, about people pushing us to be Marxist or American. And it reminded me of this. There's an old axiom that comes from Texas, and it asserts this way: don't mess with Texas. I wish there was something that would rhyme with, don't mess with America or something to that effect. But I guess I'm not bright enough to come up with anything like that. But here's what we do need to know, that if we want our nation to succeed, then you and I must come out of our slumber, our lethargy. And we need to stand firm on constitutional values, and let me add in there, whether you like this or not, on godly, biblical values. We need to know that just as our way of life is under attack, here's one key aspect that is under attack right now: our Second Amendment right. And it is under attack again, or should I say still under attack. And it now seems to me that a lot of Republicans are joining in the attack. And sadly, I've heard a report recently that the minority leader, Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, along with the Rhino senator from Texas, are proposing legislation, and they say it's to make it safer, to have gun ownership safer, and everyone's safer in our land today. But listen carefully. What they're proposing is about one thing: to limit your access to a constitutional right and to remove guns from everywhere. Now, before you decide to go crazy or your eyes bug out, I am deeply saddened and I am deeply troubled over the number of crazy people that get a gun and they kill innocent people. But these loons are so intent on evil that were it not a weapon, a gun, a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun or anything, they would use anything at their disposal. Ask about these people that have driven cars into parades and killed people. But we're not hearing a push to outlaw cars, are we? Unless it's from the green movement to outlaw gasoline engines. The attack to limit our Second Amendment right, the attack is not against the crazy people or the criminals. The intent of the gun control is to confiscate guns from law-abiding folks. And here's the reason: it's for red flag laws. Look at this cartoon that I came across just the other day, and it paints in vivid color something that I would say most common sense Americans would agree upon. Here's a guy in a black shirt in a sled going downhill called the slippery slope. And his shirt says law-abiding citizen. And it shows in the blue sign there, no due process. And the most dangerous aspect is gun confiscation. Talk about a slippery slope. How do we control the crazies in our land? We can say, oh, we've got to have better mental health care facilities. I have no qualms with that, better mental health care facilities. I have no issue with that at all. But the way to overcome all of the evil within our land is not by trying to legislate goodness or trying to come across and say, let's just take all of the guns from everybody. What needs to happen in our land is not just a change of direction, but a change of heart. I remember my grandmother taking us to a little church. Now, bear in mind, I wasn't raised in church, but we understood who we were and we understood who God is. And there was a reverence for God. There was a reverence in our land for Christians. Nowadays, it seems like we just want to criticize Christians. We want to attack Christians. We want to say they're the problem. We never want to say that evil is the problem. We want to say Christians are the problem. Now, I know some people are going to say, yeah, but haven't there been preachers who have violated their trust? Give me a break. Of course, but there is still evil in our land. My friends, we need to decide as Americans, it's time to stand up and be counted instead of surrendering to the elitists who want to destroy America. And speaking of Texas, how's that for a segue? Have you heard about the Republican Party of Texas? It's like the leftist news media, I've heard them called the lame news media. They're just, purple smoke is coming out of their ears right now. Their eyes are bugging out. They are assaulting the Texas GOP because they are just wanting to push a conservative agenda. And it seems to me that the Texas Republican Party has adopted what I would call a very American platform, a very pro-American lifestyle platform, a traditional marriage platform. Here's some of the things that the lamestream media is blaming them about. And here's what the GOP of Texas platform stands for, or what they're affirming, I should say. Natural marriage. Natural marriage. Is that such a shocker that we would know that marriage is between a male and a female? Well, Gary, love is love. Can't we all just get along? And the answer is, once we start defining love according to our own understandings, we've removed God from the scenario. And the Bible tells us that God is the one who defines love. He is the one who creates love. Not only are they in their platform endorsing natural marriage, they're talking about the right to life. And here's one that is a big shocker. They are recognizing America's status as one nation under God. And in their platform, here's what they're doing. They are rejecting the drag queen story hour for children and punishing people who do not use someone's preferred pronouns. And this is one thing that in their platform they have affirmed, that Texas reserves the right to secede from the Union of the United States of America. Good for them. I have no problems with them wanting to do that, especially if our nation continues down the slippery slope of Marxist ideologies. I know what we'll do. Let's just tax everybody higher and higher. Let's just make sure everyone sits at home and isolates themselves. Let's not let the churches come together. Let's not let these preachers who preach about life, liberty, loving God, and surrendering to the values of the Bible, let's not let them out there anywhere. Well, I know what we need to do. We need to make our nation much more friendly the way the old Soviet Union used to be. I love the Texas platform and their political platform. I love the idea of natural marriage and right to life and recognizing America as one nation under God. I love the fact that they are taking a strong stand to say, no, drag queens are not normal. Well, what's wrong with all of these affirmations? Nothing at all. There's nothing right. There's nothing wrong with any of that. What's wrong in our culture today is a very small percentage of people who say that you and I as Christians, we don't have a right to our own opinion. We don't have a right to our own worldview. We are narrow-minded, toothless, shoeless, backward-thinking hillbillies who believe in the Bible, who thump upon the Bible, who tote our guns everywhere we go and nip on moonshine. What's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that. That is hatist talk. That is racism to the nth degree. That is saying that they alone have the right words of wisdom and truth, and you and I are just illiterate buffoons. What can we do? What should we do? My friends, when we come back and we wrap up tonight's show, I hope in those closing 4 or 5 minutes, we'll be able to talk honestly and give you some ideas. Listen, hear me out as I share with you some closing comments about tonight's program and let you know America can indeed be great again. Stay tuned. Welcome back. My, oh my, this program has gone by so quickly tonight. I was telling Jonathan as we were getting ready for the show, and everybody who knows me, I always over-prepare. I always have pages and pages and pages of prep work that I do for every show. And I would rather be highly prepared than to not have anything available at all. You know how it is, like you have that dream and you're standing in front of people and you're there in your underwear. Well, my friends, you never have to worry about that. I'll never come on this show in just my underwear. But you'll know this much. I'm always going to be prepared. I read an article recently from Ben Johnson with Family Research Council, and this all ties into the entire program this evening. In that article, he wrote, quoting President Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council, and here's what Tony Perkins pointed out. He says that although the Texas platform seems consistent with previous state party platforms, he goes on and he says, quote, the left is mad. Boy, I could run off with that, and not just being mad, angry in the sense, I think mad and like, but he says, the left is mad because Texans and other conservatives haven't given in and just gone silent, which is ultimately what they want. There's the key. The left wants you to politely sit down and shut up. They don't want you to voice your concerns. They don't want you to vote at the ballot box. They consider it racist or putting down black people if you require everyone to show a photo ID in order to go vote. You know, that's absolutely lunacy when you think about it. Can't show, it's discriminatory if I show a photo in order to go vote. I've known Tony Perkins for many years. He's not a close friend or anything. He's just an acquaintance. I've known him because I've done some work with Family Research Council in years past, and one time was part of a guest platform, a panel that was there speaking at an event in Washington, D.C. with some really godly men. But here's one thing that I do know about Tony Perkins. He is a rock-solid Christian conservative. And I've got to tell you, I admire that about Tony Perkins. I admire the fact that he is staunch in his beliefs and nothing will cause him to waver from that. In one radio show that Tony had, he was joined by Wall Builders founder David Barton. And there again, I've met David once before. And David Barton shared this. Conservatives and Christians, I I don't like to separate that. I understand there's a separation for people today, but I am a Christian first. I'm a conservative second. But he said conservatives and Christians who believe in biblical values and the Constitution find that they're vilified. And it's not just their opinions. They're vilified as being evil themselves for holding that opinion. Ben Johnson's article reports that the Texas Republican Party has done what they've done to stand for godly values, for the Constitution, and what it's done, very politely, it has sent the left into a hissy fit. Now, here's the closing comments. Their platform in Texas mirrors that of our United States Constitution. And both of those mirror what you and I as Christian conservatives believe. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the Hebrew language is very clear. It says, Bereshith bara Elohim, which is saying, in beginning created he God. The emphasis is upon God doing that. Here's why it is so important for us to link our life and our lifestyle and our present and our future to the Constitution. This Constitution has come about because of a God-given right. And if we release that or let go of that or surrender those values, then we're surrendering our faith in ourselves, in our nation, and in our God. You need to know this. Here at Firebase, we believe in God, and we'll always stand for the truth. Until next week, God bless. Thanks for watching this most recent episode. Click below the like button. Provide any comments that you like. Also, we will get back to you as soon as we can after you write to us at P.O. Box 39, Perry Park, Kentucky, 40363. Also, let us know if you like really good coffee, and we'll send that out to you as soon as we possibly can. What's the name of the coffee? Firebase.